Hello everyone, this is your host Sunanda and you're watching News Meter. On the occasion of World IVF Day, we have Dr. Sreevani, clinical head and fertility expert at OSS Fertility, with us to share some insightful knowledge on the topic.
Yeah, I think as we all know, these days we are seeing many of the couples coming to the fertility centers because of the fertility issues, and 1 in 6 couples are facing the fertility issues. And if at all we have to go towards the causes for fertility, age is the most important factor in the causes because, as we all know, in a woman, as the age progresses, the number of eggs in the ovary do come down, and not just the numbers, even the quality of the eggs also comes down. And after a certain age, like after the plus after more than 35 years, even there will be some genetic changes even in the oocyte. That is why whenever a woman after 35, when they plan a pregnancy, their chances of a pregnancy do come down. So age is the first and the most important factor, and second would be weight. Today we could see that many of us are leading more of a sedentary lifestyles because most of the works are being done on computers, laptops and all, and the physical activity or a physical exercise is not happening as we should be expecting. So that is the reason, because of these changes in the lifestyle, they are putting on weight. And if a woman who is planning to have a pregnancy and if they are overweight, their chances of getting a pregnancy would also come down. Why? Because with the increase in the weight, we tend to see certain hormonal disturbances, and these hormonal disturbances will have an effect on the follicular development, ovulation. That is how, whenever they plan for a pregnancy, their chances to also come down. So weight is a second factor. And here today, I think these days we are seeing many of a women with PCO condition, polycystic ovaries. Polycystic ovaries, it is such a condition where we tend to see many follicles in the ovary, and these women we tend to have hormonal disturbances and issues with the ovulation. So polycystic ovaries, and next is a condition of endometriosis is also on a high. Endometriosis is something where we tend to see chocolate cysts in the ovaries. Chocolate cysts, the menstrual blood will be having a retrograde flow into the tubes, ovaries, and getting clogged in the ovaries, and there will be a formation of ovarian cyst in the ovaries. And these are the conditions which tend to have an effect whenever the woman is planning a pregnancy. Coming to the male side, yes, even from the male side also, weight and age are the factors which could have an effect on the fertility. So whoever are planning pregnancy should take care of all these issues, and better to go for a pregnancy. Whenever a couple are planning to have a baby, in spite of trying for 1 year of unprotected intercourse, if they don't conceive, yes, that is the time that they need to consult a fertility specialist. And here I have to mention one important thing is that women should be having a regular menstrual cycle. If a woman is having regular menstrual cycles and they are planning the pregnancy for 1 year, like having a regular intercourse, I mean to say that at least 3 times per week. And in spite of that, if they don't conceive, yes, they need to consult a fertility specialist and get evaluated initially with a basic test. Basic test whereby we do a basic ultrasonography for a woman. In that, we tend to see how her uterus is, what is her reserve, how many follicles are there, how the ovaries are there any fibroids, polyps, or any ovarian cysts in the ovaries, and how the tubes are. And from the male side, we tend to do a basic test of a semen analysis, whereby we can know what's his count and motility is. So with this minimal evaluation, we can just have a look like what the basic where the issues are like. Before going into the success rate, I think we need to know who needs IVF and what is usually done in an IVF, because if we know particularly like who needs IVF, then only I think the success rate would be better.
Yeah.
So IVF is certain a condition like which is called in vitro fertilization. So the meaning or everything is in the definition itself. Usually in a natural cycle, what happens is the woman would be having a one dominant follicle which is developing and she will be ovulating. So that one single dominant follicle, after it ovulates, the sperm should be able to go and fertilize, and the fertilization happens in the tube, and later an embryo forms and it has to implant in the uterus. But whenever a couple tries to have a pregnancy with the basic treatments and they don't conceive with the basic treatments like ovulation inductions or IUI treatments, yes, that is a indication for IVF treatments. So when they had previous 4 to 6 cycles of failed IUI treatments, yes, the next step should be IVF. And a woman, if she's having both the sides tubes blocked, and even that is the indication where we tend to take them up for a straightforward IVF indication. And from the male side, if the counts are too less, like if the count is less than 10 millions, yes, that is an indication for an IVF. And if a woman is having severe endometriosis, and if they had multiple failed IUI cycles, and if they had previous miscarriages, and we tend to know like what is the genetic component or the chromosomal component of the embryo to have a like genetically normal embryos, these are the indications for IVF. So as in natural pregnancy where the fertilization happens in the tube, in an IVF cycle, what we do is we tend to stimulate the ovaries, we make the eggs to grow, and after the eggs are like the ovaries are stimulated, we take the eggs out and we will be mixing with the sperm in the lab. So that is called in vitro fertilization. And after the sperm is injected into the egg, we check for the fertilization and we'll be putting them for the culture for 5 days in the lab. And after 5 days, we will be knowing whether the embryo has progressed or not. Only the eggs, after mixing with the sperm, when they progress toward day 5 embryo, they will be taken up for the transfer. So here comes the success rate. So once we have an embryo in hand, we tend to discuss like what would be the chances of pregnancy for that couple. So when we have a good grade 1 embryo, grade 2 embryo for day 5 blastocyst, when we take one good blastocyst for a transfer, the chances of pregnancy would be around 40 to 50. And if we put back 2 embryos, the chances of pregnancy would be around 60%. But here, the main limiting factor or the factors which would be influencing the success rate would be the age. As we have discussed, with the age, the number of eggs would be coming down, the quality would be coming down. So once the numbers come down and the quality comes down, even the embryos, whatever would be getting at the end in the IVF cycle, the quality might also be hampered. So we might not be expecting the same chances over here. So the success rate, whatever we discuss with the couple, we will be counseling them prior to taking up their further treatment. So, and it will be depending upon the age also. If a woman, if she's 30, below 30 and she's going for IVF cycle for any other reasons and not just the age, so the chances will be around 40-50. But it might not be the same for a woman who is about 35. For a 35 plus woman, if she's having low reserve, the chances would be around 30-40% only. So that is how we do the counseling regarding the success rate in an IVF cycle. Yeah, I think it's a very important question, and everyone should be knowing regarding this, Sandeep, before planning to have a baby and before planning for any fertility treatments. As we have discussed in our previous questions that, yes, weight is an important factor which couples should be knowing before planning for pregnancy. If a woman is on a like little bit on a higher side of a BMI, like we do calculate the body mass index based on her height and weight. And if she's on a higher BMI side, they should be planning to lose weight before planning for the pregnancy. And what we usually suggest is 5 to 10% of weight loss should be there before planning for a pregnancy. And for this, we usually suggest them to have a good physical activity, good nutritious diet, and a planned diet rather than just like avoiding the junk food, canned food, drinks, and all. So avoiding the junk foods, going taking good nutritious food, and doing regular physical exercises would definitely help them in achieving the desired 5% weight loss before planning for the pregnancy. And the second important thing is weight. So I think everyone should be aware that age is something which is very important, and our biological clock is ticking. So because the reserve would be coming down, it will never wait for us. So they should be aware that with the age, the success rate would also be coming down. So if they want to have a baby, they should at least the first pregnancy should be planned before 30. That is one suggestion which we usually suggest to everyone. And if they want to at least postpone their pregnancy, we do have other options like social freezing, like freezing the eggs before planning for the pregnancy. So they can go for the social freezing too if they don't want to have a baby in the near future. So that reserve is already preserved. And that is one second suggestion we do give them. And third important thing is better to decrease their stress, like doing yoga, meditation, which will bring down the stress levels and bring out necessary changes in the hormonal disturbance too. If we have to go to discuss regarding the effects of IVF on the underlying diseases, here we should understand one thing, that IVF per se will not have an effect or increase the risk or aggravate the underlying diseases, but there are certain conditions where we can't go for IVF treatments too. As we have discussed previously, in an IVF cycle, we tend to stimulate the ovaries. Like stimulating means we will be giving gonadotropin injections whereby our hormonal levels would be increasing. So there are certain conditions wherein we can't give the gonadotropin injections, and we should be avoiding the increase in the hormonal levels for the woman. And these are the conditions where the woman would be desiring to have a pregnancy, but the indication would be IVF, but we can't do an IVF. So here comes the indication of IVM. IVM means in vitro maturation, wherein we retrieve the oocytes when they are immature, and without giving any very minimal gonadotropin injections will be given. Just hardly 2 days or 3 days injection, that's it. And after giving 2 to 3 days of injections, we retrieve our immature oocytes and we mature them in the lab, and we take them up for the IVF treatment. So the conditions wherein we can't give injections, there is the option of IVF, and the woman can happily go for the fertility treatments. These are the conditions like where there is a history of thromboembolism, and even if they had any previous history of ovarian hyperstimulation. These are the conditions that we can't give the injections. So IVF is a necessary option, but IVF per se will not aggravate the underlying diseases. So if they have any certain underlying diseases, a prior consultation with the respective physician should be taken, and clear-cut guidelines or any necessary precautions should be followed before taking them for the IVF treatments.
So that's it, ma'am. Thank you so much for joining us today. I wish and I hope that you have helped a lot of couples to, go for IVF, and you have just solved the confusion of many couples regarding IVF technique. Thank you so much for joining us today, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sananda.